on Sam for not reminding me. Okay, just for the people that didn't hear it earlier, the exam is 60 multiple choice questions. Bring a pencil. It is about a third questions on the material on the first exam, a third questions on the material on the second exam, and a third questions on the most recent material. And not a great deal of math, but Sam or anybody else, you're welcome to bring a calculator.
And you said your calculator can also be your phone?
Yes.
Last time? Okay.
Yes, yes. Though, if I'm around when you're taking the exam, I will mock you because all the math should be able to be done on your fingers. Ashley, what's 10 divided by 2?
5.
Yes, got it. Okay then.
Hope the test is as simple as that.
Yes.
How is the public supply curve for external benefits like vaccines or educations determined? Like, wouldn't the optimal amount of vaccines or education be the entire population?
No.
Vaccinated? No.
Okay, there's 2 questions there. First, optimal has to take into account both the benefits and the costs. Okay, so just to look at the cost side for a second, I know this is the opposite than the question you asked. The optimal level of most pollutants is not 0. Okay. Because the environment can handle some amount of pollution. So in terms of positive externalities, which is what you were asking about, the optimal, suppose we take something like flu vaccinations. Okay. First of all, how many people have to be vaccinated for the flu vaccination, for the positive externality to go away? How many people need to be vaccinated before there's no externality anymore?
Everyone.
Everybody but one?
It turns out it's everybody but one, because if everybody is protected but one, the last person won't get it, right? Okay, this is actually a genuine public health issue. Depending on how infectious things are, you prevent an epidemic when you get up to, when you get around 75, 85% of the people vaccinated. Enough people are vaccinated that the likelihood of an actual epidemic is pretty minimal at that point. Okay, again, different diseases require different numbers depending on how infectious they are. But the optimal amount of something that has a positive externality is going to occur where at the level, at the amount where the marginal social benefit equals the marginal social cost.
Okay.
Okay, and that's not going to be 100%.
Okay.
Similarly, for a negative externality, the optimal amount is going to occur where the marginal social benefit equals a marginal social cost. No, let me say that differently. Okay, positive externality, the optimal amount is where the marginal social benefit equals the marginal social cost. And for a negative externality, it's the marginal social benefit equals the marginal social cost. So the point is, optimality occurs where social benefits and costs are equated.
Okay.
Problem is, the market working on its own tends to operate where private costs and benefits are equated.
Mm-hmm. I was also wondering if you could, I didn't understand the book's explanation of how economies of scale lead to intra-industry trade.
Okay, so you have a supply chain, okay, and you have different different components that make up, say, an automobile. Okay, so suppose there are two components. Call them the engine and the chassis, for lack of a better answer. Okay, if two countries each produce the engine and the chassis, their output will be half the world demand, say. Okay? If there are economies of scale, then they can produce those things at a certain cost, right? Now, if instead one country produces the engine and the other country produces the chassis, they each produce at a higher scale and thus at a lower cost. That benefits each of them, but it also benefits consumers because we're getting the car for cheaper. So inter-industry trade means different producers / countries produce different components of the finished product.
Okay, I got you. I guess then my question, how is that much different than the other? They said there's two reasons for it. They said reason one was the division of labor leads to learning, innovation, and unique skills. Isn't that kind of the same thing, or no?
There can be some overlap, but really, economies of scale is just about the scale. So the same workers with the same skills producing larger quantities can do it more cheaply.
Okay.
Okay. With a lot of tech products, there is learning by doing. So the longer a firm has been in business, the more they learn how to better produce the product and to bring its costs down. And that's sort of independent of how much they're producing at a given point in time. So the learning by doing is a little bit different than the pure economies of scale, even though they both result in better products at cheaper prices, cheaper costs and cheaper prices.
Okay, gotcha.
Got that, Ashley?
I have a question if no one else does.
Sure.
So my question is, in Module 11, you could do these practice problems, and it's at one of them was, what is the size of the gains from trade at the world price with free trade?
Yes.
And I know you have to determine the amount of space that's in the triangle. Is that something that we're going to be asked to do on the exam?
No.
Okay.
No. That's just geometry. So
just making sure.
Yeah. That falls into the math that Ashley was hoping I wasn't going to ask you to do correctly. She was hoping.
Can you briefly go over entry and exit of firms in the short run and long run?
Okay. The short run is easy. There is no entry or exit in the short run.
Okay.
It's defined that way. Okay. The long run is, there's two questions. What would attract an industry, what would attract a firm into an industry? And the flip side of that is what would cause a firm to leave an industry? And the answer is the same. It's how much economic profit is being earned. So firms enter an industry if existing firms in the industry are earning positive economic profits, which is, say, higher than normal accounting profits. It's those higher than normal accounting profits that make the industry look attractive. Okay? On the other side, suppose demand falls and times are tough in the industry, firms adjust as much as they can. They produce less output, but eventually in the long run, if they're still losing money, if they're still earning a negative economic profit, at some point they'll leave. Okay, some firms will leave first, some firms will leave second. As firms exit the industry, that reduces the industry supply and brings the industry price back up again. And that increase in the price then reduces the losses of the remaining firms. Okay. Similarly, on the other side, as new firms come into an industry that's earning positive economic profit, those new firms increase the industry supply and lower the industry price, which cuts the profits. So in the long run, typically all you can expect is zero economic profits in industries that have sufficiently low barriers to entry so that firms can actually get in. That would be perfect competition, monopolistic competition. Harder with oligopoly because the barriers to entry tend to be higher, and hardest with monopoly because the barriers are so high that there's only one firm. So Riley, does New Jersey seem kind of tame? Or, yeah, Riley? Riley?
Oh, sorry. I keep breaking in and out.
That's okay. So I said, does New Jersey seem kind of tame now after your trip?
Yeah, well, we came home and we didn't have any power. It came on late last night because of the storm.
Oh my gosh.
So that kind of sucked.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Other questions?
Are we going to be required to calculate the Grubel-Lloyd index?
No.
Good.
If you can program something into Excel, then there's not really much point to me asking those questions. I mean, I think.
Is there a recommended study method you would suggest, like spend more time looking over the exams versus something else?
I would definitely look over the exams because the questions on that material will be similar to the ones that you see there. Okay. As far as the new material goes, make sure you understand the models and how to work them. So in the case of the positive and negative externalities, it would be what we were talking about earlier with Andrew, right? Understanding that the optimal quantity is where where social costs, marginal costs and benefits are equal. For labor markets, it would be understanding what the demand for labor is, what the supply of labor is, where equilibrium is. And I know, Darlene, you asked a question about that. So the demand for labor is always defined as the marginal revenue times the marginal product, okay? In the case of perfectly competitive firms, the marginal revenue equals the price, so that simplifies to price times product. But the basic idea here is simple, and it's what we talked about last week. It's that the value of a worker to the firm is the number of dollars that worker brings in, and the number of dollars would be the marginal product they produce times the revenue that marginal product brings in. Okay, so the demand for labor, by any employer is going to be the marginal revenue product of labor. Okay, the supply of labor is going to depend on a number of things. In a perfectly competitive labor market, what does that mean? What is a perfectly competitive labor market?
There's plenty employers, and they're competing for the.
And therefore, the supply curve looks like what?
the supply curve looks vertical? I mean,
No,
horizontal?
it's a horizontal line
It lasts
at the
perfectly.
going market wage rate. So the idea there is that no employer is big enough to have an impact on the market wage. That the good news is employers can hire as many workers as they want to, as long as they're willing to pay the market wage rate.
So let me clarify. When you're talking about the perfectly horizontal supply curve, that's on the firm's graph, not the market in general.
Correct. The market has an upward sloping supply curve and a downward sloping demand curve. Where they intersect is the market wage. Okay. If it's a perfectly competitive labor market, then that means that any employer can hire as many workers as they want to at that wage rate, which implies a horizontal supply curve. Okay. If, on the other hand, there's imperfect competition in a labor market, either on the demand side or on the supply side, then it's a different story. What that means in the case of monopsony or oligopsony, it means that employers are large enough so that they can actually their actions can actually influence the market wage rate. Okay, so then you have to use the monopsony model to see how that differs. With unions act essentially like monopolies. Okay, and so you can imagine where the union's marginal revenue curve would be to figure out what wage they're going to demand and how many workers they're going to want jobs for, basically. Okay, and then the last stuff, the international trade stuff, the most important model is comparative advantage, and so you need to figure out comparative advantage. You need to figure, because the country that has the comparative advantage is going to be best off by specializing in the production of that product and exporting it, and then using the revenues to import whatever it is they want to import. Okay, so it's easy to confuse absolute advantage and comparative advantage. So it's really important that you get them right. Absolute advantage mean a country has an absolute advantage if it can produce a product using less labor than its trading partner, right? So less resources means absolute advantage. Okay, so it's absolute in the sense that you're measuring workers against workers. Okay, comparative advantage means you can produce a product at lower opportunity cost in terms of the other product. Okay, so the problem with absolute advantage is a country like the United States could have an absolute advantage in producing all products, or at least all the products that another country is interested or able to export. And that doesn't work very well, because how would the other country, if we exported everything, how would they pay if they don't have any export revenues themselves, right? So David Ricardo came up with the theory of comparative advantage. The advantage, pun intended, of comparative advantage is every country has a comparative advantage in something, and that's what they should specialize in. Okay, so if you're looking at two different goods, if one country has a comparative advantage in X, whatever X is, Xerox machines, that means they can produce Xerox machines at lower opportunity cost than the other country. Well, by design, that means the other country has a comparative advantage in whatever the other product is. Yarn, Y, good Y. Okay. So it has to be that way. All right. What that means is that trade can benefit any country that decides to allow it. Or to take one step back and look at it a little bigger, if a country has an absolute advantage in everything, it will end up with a higher standard of living than the other country. But that doesn't mean that the other country can't raise its standard of living by exporting what it has a comparative advantage in. So what you need to be able to do on the exam is figure out which country has a comparative advantage in what.
Are we going to be required to calculate what the comparative advantage is?
Yeah, but I mean that's just dividing two numbers, so it's not a big deal. Andrew, you still there?
Yes, I'm just saving you guys from the circus that is my house.
It's okay. You know, it's
loud.
Hey, so Professor, quick question. In the labor market, there's several questions that ask if the firm has market power. You know, what will be this certain outcome? Right. However, a market can have both power in the labor market and in their output market, and it's confusing if it's not specified.
Right.
Is that going to be is going to be specified on the exam?
It should be, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Because
they're independent. You know, a firm can be a monopsonist, but sell its output in a perfectly competitive output market.
Right. It'll say like in this firm in a perfectly competitive market, and then it'll go on to ask the effect.
Right.
However, it doesn't specify whether it's output market or labor market, so it's confusing.
If it doesn't say, and I tried to make it clear, but if it doesn't say, you should assume that it's output market.
Okay, assume output.
You can always text me tomorrow if you have a question.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I might do that.
Anybody else? Arlene, you look like you're thinking hard.
I'm trying to think of a question, but I don't have one.
Professor, the number on your contact info under modules ending in 3198, that's still good for tomorrow?
Yep.
Cool.
I will try not to be anywhere where I don't get any cell signal.
If not, I'm just going to write on the test, assuming
Got it.
Market.
Sounds good.
How important is it to know the dates for like some of the laws, like the tariff laws, the protectionism laws, and all that?
If you can look it up, then it's not that important.
Okay. It's not important to know like Sarbanes-Oxley or Frank Dodd, all that?
No.
Okay, cool.
You know, I'm really a macro guy, so those things aren't that exciting to me. I'm certainly regulatory economics is a specialized field in micro anyway. Any other questions? All right, well then, I guess I'll let you guys go, and you know how to reach me if you have questions in the meantime. Thanks for showing up, and I enjoyed having you in the class if I don't talk to you.
Hey, Professor, there's not thought of another question. Sorry to be so
No problem.
How are we going to get the results of the test, and then how are we going to know which ones we got wrong?
Okay, that's two separate issues. I will have your exam graded by Monday afternoon. So you'll your grades will be available on Banner by Tuesday, if you can wait that long. If you want to know which ones you got wrong, you probably have to come in and see me at some point. I'm supposed to keep the exams for a year, so anytime you want to come in is fine with me. Or else we could do it over the phone or something like that. Just not next few days.
So, like, if we wanted to know, like, hey, we'll see what kind of score we got on it. It's going to be on actual Canvas, the actual score of the exam.
Okay. No, that won't be. That's right. If you want to know that stuff, send me an email, and I can tell you, what you got on everything.
For those people who are taking the exam later in August, what will be put in the Banner?
You'll get an incomplete, an I grade, and then as soon as you take it, I'll just change the grade.
Oh, it's in the closet, the pantry. She was messing with it.
Other questions?
No, that's it for me.
All right, well then I guess I'll let you guys go. Have a good evening and good luck on the exam if I don't see you before then.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Mhm.